The following episode of Dad vs. Daughter is made possible by a contribution from Flying Lemur Game Studio.
North American Railways from Flying Lemur Games is an economic game where we have stocks and trains. So very familiar theme for a lot of gamers. This is a game that Dad's lunch group has been playing a lot of recently. So I'm going to kind of give you an overview on how the game is played. And then we're going to peek in on a round between Dad and his lunch group. Then we're going to come back and I'm going to tell you what we think of it. So check it out. First, I want to walk you through setup. Now, regardless of the player count, the board is always going to be set up like this. You are going to have 4 columns of 7 stocks apiece, and you're going to have 2 stocks left over. Those stocks are going to go back into the box. You're also going to use all 36 cities that you see over here. The only difference in player count is the amount of money that you're going to start with. So in a 3-player game, each player gets 2,000. In a 4-player game, each player gets $1,700, and in a 5-player game, each player gets $1,400. A round is broken out into 3 phases. We have our trade share phase, we have our buy city phase, and then we have our income phase. So first, let's talk about the trade share phase. So starting with the first player in that round, and you'll know their first player because they're going to have this little black locomotive here. They can actually purchase any of the shares that are on the bottom row. Now, in this case, they have either red or green. When they buy a share at the start of the game, they get to decide how much money they want to spend. Now, let's just say for demo purposes, they want to buy this red and they're willing to pay $1,000. So what they would do is they would take that share and they'd put it in front of them, and then they would take $1,000 from their hand, and because it's the first turn, they would put all of that $1,000 in the red treasury. So that would go there, and that's going to be used in the second phase when we're going to be buying cities. Now the next player is going to take their turn, and again, they can buy any share from what is considered to be the bottom row. So now that that red share is gone, they can buy either this yellow, that red, or either of those greens. Now, since a red stock has already been purchased, that person is now the director who bought that first turn. They're going to have this little locomotive in front of them. So if the next player wants to buy this red share, they're going to set a price, and they'll say, I want to buy that red share for $800. Now the director can either let them buy that share, and if they do, that share then is sold to that person. Half of that money, which in this case would be $400, would go into the treasury of the red company. Or if the red director decides they can buy that share instead, paying half the money to the player that was attempting to buy it, and then the other half to the company's treasury. If that happens, let's say the director ended up buying that and then put another $400 into the treasury there, then the player whose turn it is can now go again. Now, since there's no more reds there, if there was a red, they would not be able to buy that since they already attempted to buy a red that turn. However, now they can attempt to buy a yellow or green, and since it's still the first turn, they're going to put all that money that they buy or they use to buy that company's share all into the company's treasury. So let's say they decide to buy this green share, and again, let's say that they decide to buy that for $1,000. So $1,000 is going to go into the greens treasury, and that player then becomes the director of green, and they'll take that other matching locomotive. And as you can see, we're going to keep doing that until all players have had a chance to buy a stock. Now, the other thing that can happen, this wouldn't happen on the first turn, but if a player ever has 0 money when it is their turn to buy a stock, what they can do is they can actually take $200 from the bank, and that's their turn. So they'll at least be able to get some income that way. Now, the second phase is going to be buying one of the cities. Now, like buying the shares, you can only buy from whatever is along the bottom. So in this case, since the first player is the director of red. He has red shares. He has $1,000 that he can spend, and he can buy one and only one city, regardless of how much money he has. So let's say that he decides that he's looking at the payouts here. He likes Seattle because it's going to provide $200 worth of income. He takes $500 of the money from the red treasury, and then he buys Seattle. So that $500 goes to the bank, and then Seattle becomes one of the cities on the red company's stops. So we'll talk about that in a minute as far as the income that provides. Now, the next player would be able to go. In this case, green, they have $1,000. They can actually buy Cincinnati, Buffalo, Oklahoma, or Ohio, because Oklahoma is now the bottom of that column. And let's say they decide they want to buy Oklahoma for $300. They'll take $500 and pay that to the bank. $200 will go back into the company's treasury. And Oklahoma then becomes part of green's line. Players will keep going around in turn order, buying cities as long as they own a stock in that company and there's money in the treasury enough to buy one of the remaining cities. Now, you'll notice that some cities have, like Ohio here, which is actually a state, not a city, has this coast-to-coast symbol. That's going to be used for end-of-game scoring, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. The way the income phase works is we look at how much income that company is generating. So Redwood provides $100 and Seattle is providing $200. So in total, that's $300. We look at the number of shares that we have out. So in this case, we have 2 shares. So each share is going to be worth $100, and there's going to be $100 left over. So since this player controls both of these, they'll get $100 per share, or $200, and since they are the company's director, they're also going to get that $100 that's left over. Now, if they had $200 left over, they would still only get $100, and then the other amount that's left over would go back into the company's treasury. Looking over here at green, green is generating $400 worth of income, $100 from Redwood and $300 from Oklahoma. There's only one share out, so that player is going to collect $400 in income. After all of the companies have handled their income phase, then the first player marker goes to the next player in clockwise order, and we're going to do it all over again. We're going to be trading shares, we are going to be buying cities, and we will do income. The end game trigger is done a number of different ways. So if we ever have shares that are less than the number of players, so let's just say if we had a 5-player game, if we ever had less than 5 shares left, that would trigger the end of the game at the end of that round. If we ever have 5 cities, all that remain, regardless of player count, that triggers the end of the game. Or if we go through a turn and no cities have been purchased, that will also trigger the end of the game. The end of game payout is the same as in normal end of round payout, except for the director's cut. Now, if there is ever money left over that is not able to be divided, instead of the director only getting 100, they actually get half of whatever is left over, and everything has to be divisible by 100. And then remember I told you about this coast-to-coast symbol here. We're going to look at how many of those are in each of the companies, and those are going to provide $100 per share per player, so you're going to get a bonus payout there. So let's just say that I had 3 shares of red, and we had 5 of these coast-to-coast tokens on there. I'm going to multiply 3 by 5, and I'm going to get $1,500. So that is another thing that you really have to watch whenever you're buying cities, because some cities actually don't provide any money as far as regular income, but they provide a hefty amount of those coast to coast. Like you see here in New Jersey, costs $400, has 0 payout throughout the game, but at the end of the game, it's got 3 of those coast to coast symbols. So this is one that you probably want to buy towards the end of the game if you can, but you never know because these are all going to be random. So this may come out early enough and it just won't provide any income, but you'll know that you're going to get that end of game bonus. Now that I've given you an overview on how the rounds progress, let's watch Dad and his lunch group kind of play through it, and I think you'll get a better understanding of how the game actually plays out. We are in the 4th round, so you can see there's a lot of stocks taken. Quite a few cities taken. You have blue, purple, yellow, green.
I'm gonna go 600 for that green.
Screw it.
Buying it?
Yeah, I'll buy it.
So 300 is going to go to JJ, and 300 goes into the kitty.
Oh, sorry, yeah, give me one of those twos.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking.
That goes. No, that's to the green. Put it.
Yeah.
I accidentally put it by blue. Turn it to me, and then we'll split this last one. Okay.
So now JJ can buy a yellow or a blue.
Or purple.
Or purple.
No one will contest you on blues.
Yeah.
I out.
And then you become director of blue too.
Wow.
I choose you. It's got a tree now.
So only he can contest me for you. Like you're not
And he
allowed to.
can't. Correct. But he can't because he's broke.
I'm broke.
Even though money's secret.
I'm sorry.
No, I know. It's,
One.
but then you gotta remember, that's going to the treasury. And that's going to be for buying cities.
Yep. Well, 100.
So 100
No,
is going to go into the blue treasury there.
Take your train and you'll like it.
I will.
I will do purple.
Purple's got a lot of money now.
Didn't I just get $200?
Yes. I guess $200
Sorry.
for the director of green out of kindness of our hearts.
What's going on there?
He has no money, so he gets $200.
Ah,
If you pass, you get $200.
Freaking
so he didn't have any money, so he couldn't buy a stock.
It has to. You have to have no money.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Not
So-
passing. There's no money. So if he had $100, he could bid $100 and that would be it.
I passed go. I collected $200.
Looks like you're going after blue.
I think I might.
So, which blue? This one or that one? And there's a reason it's important in this case.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why in a second. And Tim knows.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
I'm going to bid.
Actually, there's two reasons why.
1 million.
I'll wait till he figures out what he wants to do.
These need to be thicker.
Oh, were you here when I opened it up? Because it was a shrink when I brought it
I'm
in.
actually going to pass.
Okay.
I'm not actually going to buy that blue.
So let me explain a couple things. If you bought this blue, let's say he lowballed you and you bought it because you're the director. Only thing that's left is yellow because you can't buy blue again. As the yellow director, if he has less than $1,000 and he wants to buy yellow, he puts all his money in. Half goes to that, and half like to the bank, whatever it is. So he gets it for less than $1,000. If he chose this blue, then he'd have that purple to go after. But he could do that to kind of lowball you again to get more money into his pocket.
Okay.
Gotcha. Anyway, so there's a couple different ways of doing that.
So now it's buying
It's
these
buying cities.
Buying
buying
cities.
cities times, and you are
Your first and your choice of whatever one of your four.
Red or blue. Okay, so neither. I can buy nothing. Oh, but I can choose green
Yep.
or purple.
yeah.
as well.
Green's got
Yep. Not who you're the director of, just who
400.
you have shares in.
Okay.
So purple has a lot of money, so
Purple has 800.
yep.
It's that way.
800. Got this.
Let me go that Philadelphia.
You don't do Philadelphia?
The purple.
Wait. Do I want to do that? No, actually, I'm going to use my green, and I'm going to go Baltimore.
Baltimore buys Green for 400, or Green buys Baltimore for 400. I think that was all of the money that is in the treasury there.
So the only C they can buy now is purple. And purple is 800.
Yes, ma'am.
Los Angeles looks pretty good for 500.
Yeah, I'll have to go with LA. 500 for purple. I was trying to get it so there could be 2 city purchases, but this just wasn't worth it to get the a couple 400s exposed.
Okay.
So
300
300
start there.
Nope.
No, that's it.
So that's the end of that round. So now we're going to go to paying out. Red is $700, and there are 5 shares, so $100 a share. And then as a director, you'll get an extra one, and one will go into the coffer there.
How much did you collect? 200. You should collect 400.
Yeah, you get 400.
Why do I get 4?
It's $100 a share.
$100 a share plus one for the director.
Per share.
Yeah.
And then, so you get 300 for your shares and 100 for being the director, because there's leftover money.
Yellow is at $300, so there are 2 shares, and I'm the director, so I will get all 300. Green has a lot here. Green has we got $3, $6, $7, $900 for green, and 5 shares. So $100 a share,
$100 for the director.
and $100 for the director, and then 200. Is that right? Did I do my math right? 5, 6.
No, 300.
300.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you get 600 and 900, so 300 back to
300
this.
back to there. Purple is at $500, and there are 3 shares, so $100 a share, $100 to the director, and $100 into the kitty.
One more 100, por favor.
Yeah, because you have 2 shares. That's right.
Well, and yeah, the director share.
Blue is at $400, and there are 3 shares, so $100 a share plus an extra 100 for the director.
200 for you and 100 for
grab
us
me
4
100?
people.
Yep.
Reach over again. Yep.
So I ended the game with
$8.
$3,300.
Wow,
but
nice.
Tim over here ended up with $5,000
5,800.
and $5,800 there.
4,300.
And Michael had $4,300.
And these are the guys who played it before.
Now that you've had a chance to watch Dad and his lunch group kind of play through the game, hopefully you've got a better idea of kind of how the game flows and how each of the phases actually plays out. So now that you've seen that, let's get to what Dad and his lunch group think of the game. I have to admit that the very first time I played North American Railways, I didn't like it. And that's really because I didn't really understand or really get a good comprehension of what I should be doing on each of my turns. The buying of the stocks really kind of confused me a little bit, where I wasn't the director and I was basically trying to negotiate with the person that was the director. And then even when I was a director, I really didn't have a good idea of how I should be playing that. So that really kind of put me off the game. And the game actually went on my shelf for about a year until recently when we started playing this again at lunch. And it took me just a little bit to kind of get back into it. But then it was like somebody flipped a light switch. And I'm like, okay, I finally get it. And understanding the game was huge. I really like this game now. In fact, we've been playing it a lot over lunch over the last several weeks. And if you've been following our Facebook page, you've seen the posts that I've had on that. But this game is a lot of fun. There's a lot of strategy in this. And just kind of on the surface, you might not think so. But there is plenty of kind of screw your neighbor and trying to make them think you're going one way when you're going another. Your kind of end game that you're playing. There's a lot of different ways that you can go, and I found a lot more depth to the game than I really thought there was when I first started playing this. So like I said, I've really enjoyed the gameplay. My lunch group has really enjoyed this as well. In fact, we've had several different groups of people that have been playing this, and I don't think there's been anybody who has not liked it. There's been people that say that they suck at the game, and yeah, they have. In fact, I was one of those early on, but then I was finally able to win one by doing a couple of different things, because one of the things that you can do is you can work together with another player, and you guys can make that company very valuable in the amount of payouts it has. Because if you're able to buy multiple cities on a turn between you and other players, then you're really going to be in an advantage with that. Also, knowing when to be the director and when not to be the director is kind of another big thing that I think is key to success. But I think there's a lot of different things that you guys can figure out on your own as far as different kind of strategies that you want to try to employ. And different ways in order to, like I said, screw your neighbor over, making them purchase certain stocks just so that you can get a stock that you want maybe uncovered there, or to, you might buy a stock in a company that you really have no desire in. You pay a small amount, and then you try to wreck that company by either, making it have zero payouts, or, using it to expose a city for maybe another railroad that you're wanting to build up. Just a lot of different things there on the surface. So gameplay, I think, has been really good, and it's played within an hour's time frame. So once you really understand the game, the turns flow very quickly, and then you kind of get to the end of the game, you're like, wow, we're here already. So like I said, really enjoy the game. Now let's talk about the components. As Megan would like to point out, usually, we have colorblind assistance here, because this is green, but each of the different colors have a different symbol, so that you know which symbol goes with which company. So if there are any colorblind issues, that kind of takes care of that. Plus, these are nice, chunky trains. They look nice. Really can't say much more about that. The cards themselves, the artwork on the cards, it's not anything that's earth-shattering. In fact, I find it kind of dull. But on the shares, we're not really even looking at this art. We're just looking at the color. And the only thing that really sticks out is you can kind of see there's a wheel there and the word share. So the artwork's not the greatest, but the color serves the purpose that you need it to be. Kind of the same with the city cards. Again, the artwork on the cities are not that great to look at. They are very bland, but the fact that you've got the buy color in red and the income color in green really helps. They're nice and big, so there's really no reading issues with the cards that way. The only real negative I have with the components of the game is the paper money, and the company's very aware of that. I've talked to them about that. It is super thin. It's on basically if you think of like a stack of Post-it notes where you've got to peel off each one, that's what you have to do with this. The backs, you can see, are all the same because your money is kept hidden throughout the game. The denominations on the money, they're fine. They're nice and big. Same artwork it's on the share cards. Again, it's kind of blah. But don't really matter. I'm not paying attention to the art really. The color on the money, while it's nice to have the different denominations and different colors, it's really not that big of a deal. It does help. There really aren't any colorblind issues that you really have to deal with because you have the denominations that take care of that. So again, I would do something a little bit different with money. I have seen pictures where people have used poker chips. The problem is with poker chips, unless they're all the same color and they're not double-sided, you can easily tell how much money someone has. So if you want to try to keep with the spirit of the game and keep all money hidden, you'd have to come up with some kind of screen, or keep all your poker chips in your hand below your table or something, just so that everybody doesn't see that. But that's really kind of a minor thing. I mean, we've been playing the heck out of this, and we've not had any money that's been heavily damaged yet. I can see over time that it does, and maybe at that point you come up with a different solution, or maybe they have a reprinting and they have a better solution for the money. But really, that's the only negative that I've had with the game, and my lunch group has kind of all said the same thing about what I've said here. The artwork's very bland, but it's serviceable. The money is flimsy, but it's okay as well. Overall, my lunch group has really enjoyed playing this. Like I said, we've been playing it solid over the last several weeks. No one has gotten tired of it yet. In fact, I personally, and I've also noticed other players, trying to employ different strategies, kind of see what works, see what doesn't. And with a different mix of players, you kind of get a feel for what they're trying to do, as well as learn kind of how they approach trading the stocks, or how they try to build up their companies and so forth. So there's a lot to discover here. I don't think that we're going to be bored with this anytime soon. So I would highly recommend North American Railways if you like economic games. It's not really much of a train game, because the only train that you have is this. I know, 18xx games, they're heavily stock driven, and that's kind of what this is, without really getting a good visual of a train system, other than having your routes there. But it's an economic game, and for economic games mainly being a little dry, this one has been a lot of fun to play. So I recommend it. My lunch group recommends it. So you might want to go out and check it out. So that is North American Railways from Flying Lemur, and we will catch you guys next time. If you would like to support us, you can visit patreon.com/dadvdaughter.
Like and follow us on Facebook to stay current on our show schedule, sneak peeks at future shows, and to interact with us.